Hi everyone. We'll get started in 1 second. Okay, let's set this guys up. Okay, I think we are ready to go. Okay, so let's get started. Today I'm gonna edit a few more images from the Berkshires, from the waterfalls. This time I want to edit a couple of panoramas. So I have the panorama here with different exposures slightly, but I think I'm okay with just using one exposure. So let's select the images that we want to try to blend, right click for the merge panorama and let it do the work. Let's unclick the auto crop. I want to see how it looks. So we have a little bit of not sharp on the edges. So maybe what if we do cylindrical instead of... Oh, okay, much better, right? So the corners look better. Let's see. But the log here really looks weird. Let's see if we can bring it a little bit. So it's stretching the corners here, basically to get you... So yeah, so when the perspective one is actually kind of better for the log, but the problem is it has issues in the corners. Let's see if we did. I guess if we stretch it, the boundary completely, this is actually not bad. Okay, I think we can probably live with that, although there is some deformation here. Cancel. Let's see if maybe we don't need the third image. What if we just merge two of these guys? Okay, let's see in the corner. Yeah, this is pretty good. It's actually not that different from stretching it before. Let's see if we do auto crop. Yeah, I think we're okay. Let's do auto crop here. Let's do merge. So it's gonna merge the two images into a panoramic image. Yeah, the third image really gives a little bit more details. Let me see that. Yeah, it has a little more water here that maybe we are losing. I don't think I think we're okay, probably. It would be better if we had a little bit. Let me see. Let's try again. So let's do this 3 images. Edit in for the merge in panorama. Not auto crop. So what if... Yeah, what if... No, not cylindrical. We need to warp it too much. Don't. It really warp. If I use perspective here, projection, then the beam is pretty straight, which is good, but then the corners here are kind of stretched, which I don't like. And I don't really sharpen up unless if I do warp, the corners are okay, but then the beam kind of bends. Okay, I think I'll survive without that third image. So let's mark this one, the panoramic one, with 2 stars, and then go to develop. Let's see. Okay, so let's start with applying let's do adaptive profile. It's actually pretty good this time. We do have a little bit of movement in the leaves, so we might need to blend in a little bit from another image, but we'll see. It's not a big deal. Like usual, I want to tone it down a little bit. Don't want it too much. And then, okay, so that gives us a good starting point. So let's start. I actually, before I go to the local adjustments, let's bring out the shadows a little bit. So we have some details in those shadows underneath rocks. We'll add maybe a little bit later. And then I really want to add a bit of texture, clarity, and dehaze for everything. Kind of maybe bring down saturation just a touch. Let's see in terms of temperature. How about let's choose a neutral area. Whoa, that's very cool. No, don't. Nope. I think we're okay mostly with the white balance. We'll see. Maybe we'll change it a little bit later. Okay, let's see what I want to do. Yeah, I think I'll. Okay. What do we want to do? So obviously the water and the waterfall are the main subjects, but we do have kind of, let's go to the tone curve. I want to kind of bring up the black so it's not really black, but I don't want to lose contrast, so actually might bring contrast later. So okay, leave it as is. Let's look at the color mixer. So luminance, there's gonna be a lot of greens and a lot of yellows here. Let's see what happens to the greens. Okay, I actually want I don't want it to be too bright. I actually want it maybe darker. Let's see, yellows. There's a decent amount of yellows. That's okay. How about oranges? There is some orange, definitely. Not a huge amount. Okay, and then what about blues and then aqua? So there is definitely some aqua, but that's okay. And then we have blues in the water. Okay, blues in the water, we'll deal with that. So let me add a little bit of saturations to the yellow and to the orange. Maybe reds. Let's see what the reds. Not much reds really. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I feel like the main cascade here is okay, but it's in terms of exposure, but maybe I want a little bit to bring out some of the details. So let's go to, let's take a brush, and then I want to bring down the highlights a little bit and add a little bit of more of texture, and then we'll see from there. So we want to do, don't need an auto mask. Let's just a little bit bring it down here to have a little more details in the water, the flow, kind of all these flow lines. Nice. And I know that we are gonna do later, we're gonna do some Orton effect, so we're gonna lose some of the details, so we can overdo it a little bit here, and then we'll bring it back later. So let's see if we increase the whites. No, I actually don't want to increase the whites. Maybe bring the details even more. Let's see, texture. Maybe, how about if we do a little more texture, maybe clarity, a little bit of clarity. Okay, and then on the upper part I want to first make it a little brighter, so let's put a radial gradient here. So let's put the mask here. So we want to increase the exposure a little bit, and then maybe bring out the shadows just a touch, maybe a little more, and then bring highlights down a little bit. And then I also want to add texture, which is basically the similar, gives the similar effect. And then let's go back to that brush and then brush it over the brightest areas here, again to kind of bring out the details a little bit in the water. Okay, so I think it's pretty good. Maybe you'll make the water a little colder in a bit. So let's go to the bottom part. So what I want to do is let's create another radial gradient here. But I don't actually want it to affect non-water. I want to just affect the water. So I want to intersect the mask with let's see with what. Let's do select landscape and water, see if it detects water. Okay, takes it a while. Yes, there's water. Okay, cool. Okay, excellent. So it creating a mask over the water, basically. Let's bring it back. Okay, and then so maybe I don't want the, let's do 100% flow. I don't want it to affect the upper chunk of the water. So, okay, so we're only affecting the bottom part of the water really now. Okay, so let's bring up the exposure a little bit, maybe a little bit of whites, and then maybe bring down the highlights a little bit, maybe more whites, and then a little bit of a decent amount of texture, and then maybe a little clarity. Okay, let me see what happens if we do dehaze. No, don't want to do dehaze, it's becoming a little more too crunchy. Okay, so overall this is pretty good. Let's go back to the last, to that mask with the water, there where we, so kind of do these guys a little bit, and then let's bring some of the details here a little bit. Let's increase the whites, increase the contrast, and then just brush it a little bit. Okay. One more. Small gradient here. Let's just bring the exposure a little bit up. Maybe highlights down. Okay. So now, what do we want to do? So I want to create a little bit of an atmosphere in the farther part. No, not circular part. I don't want circular. Let's do linear gradient on the upper part. Kind of like this. Do a little bit of negative dehaze. Maybe actually positive clarity. And then bring down the highlights a little bit and overall exposure maybe up. And we'll add some vignette because it's a little too bright now. Okay, so maybe a little less effect. And then maybe let's bring another linear gradient from the bottom here and bring down the exposure just a touch. Okay, so okay, let's see, go to the select landscape, want to select the water, create mask. I want to lower the temperature just a touch. So we have this slightly bluish effect. And then let's see if we can select landscape and maybe vegetation. Okay. Create mask. And then kind of warm it up just a little bit to create a contrast. Okay. Okay, I feel like I want this log to kind of emphasize. Let's see. So let's see if we can select this. Let's see if it finds it. Okay, yeah, so I want to bring it just a little up, maybe a little more contrast, bring down the blacks, and then maybe add quite a bit of texture and clarity, kind of to sharpen it up. Okay, so that's the log. We'll need to try to clean up here maybe a little bit. These like really distracting. Maybe here as well. Okay, so what else? Let's do radial gradient. Let's add a vignette. So reduce the size. So kind of invert this and then bring down the exposure quite a bit. Maybe reduce the okay. Let's see. Maybe we don't want the effect so much in the bottom. Yeah. Okay. Something like this, maybe even more. Okay. Okay, let's bring. I really don't like these dark shadows here. Let's bring them out. Let's take a brush and bring out the shadows. Let's do 25% flow, so not all at once. And also here. So maybe you'll bring exposure up a little bit. No, just shadows a little more. Okay, yeah, something like that, so we can see the details. So the area is still dark, but we can see the details. Okay, yeah, that works fine. No, okay. So what do we want? I want to dodge and burn a little bit. So I want brush. Let's do up whites, increase exposure, and then a little bit of temperature. And we are gonna do a little bit on the log here on the front to create this illusion, a little bit of light. Okay, so if we turn it on, turn it off, we can see the white. Okay, we can probably do a little more when we in Photoshop for the final. Let's do a little bit here. Yeah, I think I'll do it a little bit in Photoshop. I want to actually, let's take a brush, reduce the exposure, maybe cool it down a little bit, and then some on the back here. Kind of sculpt this light a little bit. And then, okay, I actually want to bring down exposure here quite a bit. Let's do reduce, make the brush bigger. Just darken it up a little bit. Okay. Okay. Let's kind of guide the eye through. And then let's bring it, let's get closer to the rock. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what we can do here. So we're done with this brush. Don't know how much we can clean up, unfortunately, here. Maybe a little bit when we're in Photoshop. Okay. More or less okay. Let's go to Photoshop, do a little more dodging and burning, and then let me add one more radial gradient in the middle. So this area, just to make it even brighter. Okay. So I think maybe just a touch darker here in the foliage. We'll deal with the bright areas in Photoshop. Okay. Let me put small brush, kind of add a little bit. Okay. Maybe a little less. Okay, I think that's okay. Let's open this in Photoshop. Edit in Photoshop. It is a little, my computer is a little slow today. Looks like it's working overtime. What's going on? Having some issues with opening the Photoshop. Give me a second. Oh, okay. Here it is. It opened. Okay, so let's fit screen. Let's duplicate layer. Let's start with doing a little bit of cleanup, then we'll do some dodging and burning, and then we'll do the Orton effect at the end. So let's first remove these guys. Wow, My computer really struggling here. Come on, can do it. Okay, so it finished. Let's try to do these guys here as well a little bit. Not gonna remove everything here, but just the edges that kind of sticking out and pulling the eye. Let's see if I can do that. Come on. Okay, mostly it did okay, like, except for this one. So let's remove that one. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's pretty decent. Let's see up close here. There is no issues. Oh, there is a little bit of an issue here. Let's remove this guy. Not much I can do here, only clean up a little bit because there's just too much stuff there, unfortunately. Okay, okay, so that's okay. So let me add brightness and contrast. Let me reduce brightness, and then I want to invert the mask, take a brush, and then just kind of reduce the exposure of this area a little bit, make it darker. Okay, so now let's do some dodging and burning. We'll add a layer of solid color, 50% black, meaning it's gray. Change the blend mode to soft light, so it's not actually seen right now. And then we can go to dodging. I want to dodge some highlights. Okay, so no, not this one. This one seems to be not great, but a little bit here, maybe a little bit in the water, and then a little bit on the in our log. So now I want to darken. Let's burn a little bit. Midtones here, just a touch. So I want this area to be yellowish, more yellow. So let's add color balance. Let's make towards yellow, but we'll invert it, and then we only adding it here a little bit. Actually want to make it a little darker, not as bright. Okay, let's get to here. Wait. I want to go back to our dodge and burn layer and do dodge highlights just a little bit here. And then also to bring out the shadows. Okay, it's cream. I think this is kind of okay looking. Okay, so let's just add an orton effect. So let's create a stamped layer. So Alt Control Shift E. Apply blur, Gaussian blur, 33 pixel radius. Switch the mode to lighten, the blend mode. Reduce the opacity to about 25% right now. We might reduce it, and then brightness and contrast layer, tie it to the layer below, plus 20 on the brightness, plus 80 on the contrast. Okay, so let's see. So the water, yeah, okay, so maybe a little less, maybe around 20%. And then let's add a mask and use a little bit of a brush to brush it off a little, not so we haven't lost all the texture in the water. Okay, I think that's about it. I think I want to darken this area just a touch. So let's the brightness contrast, reduce brightness. Wow, this is laggy. I've created 2 layers. Sorry. I don't want to do that. I created it in the wrong place. Okay. Sorry. So this one I don't want to tie. This one I actually want to be a regular one, and then let's darken quite a bit. Then invert the mask, and then take a white brush, and then just darken it a little bit here. Maybe even more. Okay, that looks okay. As if there is light here in the area, in the middle, and then basically. Okay, and maybe I want to darken. Oh no, what is going on? Let's darken this area a little more. Okay, so one thing I didn't do is we actually need to deal with the bright areas. So let's create another stamped layer. And then let's get close to those bright areas in the canopy. So we want to kind of take a stamp on some of the foliage, and then just kind of fill in that. Oh, there is my tripod. I need to remove it. Okay, let's remove the tripod. Okay, so let's move to the other location. So let's bring this one just a little bit. So again, I'm gonna sample some of the foliage with Alt, and then just kind of add it in the brighter area. Now when I'm doing it, I'm using darken blend mode, which means that only areas where it's darker than the background it will come through. So it will only darken the holes in the canopy. Fit screen. Let's see. There are a few locations in the canopy that we need to fix, so just needs patience. So a little bit. So just sample and then darken the area. Kind of you want to sample different locations so it doesn't look repetitive. That's this one. Okay, there's this area. This one is gonna be not great. Let me see if I can sample from another area. So maybe from here. Might as well touch here. So this is just kind of, you need patience to fill out these guys. Here we want to be careful because we don't want to go over water. We only want to kind of do the green stuff. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's do it here, one here. Okay, this area needs to be dealt with. So let's do. So you don't want to sample from a very dark area because you have the slightly darker here, not just the like the sky visible, but also some areas in the canopy that you don't want to override. So you want to sample relatively bright area, so it's not going to be darker than the area that you don't want to override. So kind of. Okay, so now there's a hole here. Okay, so let's see one more time here. Fit screen. Okay, so we have this one. That's probably the biggest one. So let's go to that area. Okay, we need a little bit darker area here. So it matches more the area that we are filling. It doesn't need to be perfect, we just need to remove most of the like bright spots here, so they don't draw the eye when you look at the image. Oh, this one is not good. We have a piece of tree here that I cloned. Okay, I think we are almost done. Okay, here, maybe a little bit here. Okay, this area, and that's it, I think. Again, this means you need to be careful and not hurry. Okay, I think this is pretty good on one area here. Okay, let's see screen. Okay, yeah, looks pretty good. The one thing is here. Okay, one last one. This one is fairly easy. Let's just sample from here. Sample, kind of. Okay, so this should be good. Okay. I do want to make a little bit darker here and whatever, so kind of give the, let's convert this to smart object, because I want to do filter raw, camera raw filter here. Oh, come on. Okay, I think I need to restart this one. So I'll save it and I'll reopen it. Give me a sec. Let's mark this with 4 stars. Let's open it again in Photoshop, edit original. Okay, let's try filter, camera raw. Oh, come on. Okay, maybe let's restart Photoshop. Wow, computer is moving super slow today. Let's try this again. Okay, so let's try it again. Okay, now it's okay. Okay. Let's see, mask, I want brush, want to reduce the exposure a little bit. Just a touch here. And then I want to add as if there is light coming through the canopy a little bit. So radial gradient, let's reduce the size. 100% feather. Do negative dehaze. Make it warmer. And then increase the exposure. And also increase the whites. And maybe intersect mask with luminance range. I want to remove the very dark areas. Leave it only in the brighter ones. Okay. Let's fit. Maybe less. Maybe also add a little bit of color. No, let's not do that. What's before, after, before, after. Okay, yeah, okay. I think that looks pretty good. Okay. Yep, I think this is pretty good. Let's save this. Go back to Lightroom, compare before and after. Okay, so this is our final image. Let's duplicate the one that we before we went to Photoshop. Let's develop, reset everything. Oh, crop. And then go to the lens corrections. Okay, so let's mark it with 1 star. And let's compare. Okay, so the one on the left is after, the one on the right is before. So definitely something is bothering me in the water upstairs a little bit. I feel like I do want to have it to have a little bit difference. Okay, so let's go. Generally that's good, but edit in Photoshop, edit the original. Let's go back to our camera raw. Let's add another radial gradient here. I want to bring down the exposure just a little bit on the upper part of the waterfall. And then let me add another one in the middle to make it just a touch brighter. Okay, we don't want to blow, but we want maybe bring down the highlights a little bit. No, we don't want to blow the highlights. Okay, so let's see. This is before, after, and then the one here. Yeah, okay. So now it kind of adds a little bit of a 3D to that area of waterfall. You can see that the one in the back is a little in shade. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, let's save this one. Let's compare again, before and after. Before, after. Do I need a little more contrast in the water? Maybe just a touch. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to the camera raw filter. This one. Let's increase the whites a little. Then bring down the blacks, so it's kind of increase the contrast. Okay, how about this one? This one I just want to increase the contrast. Let's see if we can. Okay, I think we're already at the maximum that we can do there. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. I was originally planning to do another one, but I think we are good for today. So let's finish up